Welcome to Watch, Review, Repeat. This is the podcast where two best friends discuss the latest in film and television and then do it all over again the following week. My name is Colton Brown, and joining me is Andrew Meadows.
Colton Brown! What are you doing, man? How you doing?
Last time I checked, I'm sitting down to record a podcast with you. Does that sound right?
Well, I know that's what I'm doing. I think we're sitting down together to record this podcast.
Well, not together. We're not in the same room. Let's not confuse our listeners.
We're sitting down at the same time. How about that?
Mm-hmm. That is a factual statement. I will agree with that. But I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing all right, man. I'm excited about what we're covering tonight.
Me too, which is Isle of Dogs by Wes Anderson, directed by Wes Anderson. It's a good time, and I think we'll have a good time talking about it. Before we get there, a couple things to touch on. First of which is our third and final bonus episode covering the Marvel Cinematic Universe is now available to the masses through Patreon. So it is currently a Patreon exclusive, which means if you just chip in a couple bucks our way on a monthly basis, you get access to that, future bonus episodes, early access to all of our regular episodes. So if that's anything that interests you, then definitely get on that. Just head to watchreviewrepeat.com, go to our premium tab, or you can just find us directly on Patreon at patreon.com/watchreviewrepeat. And Henry, of course, joined us again for that episode, and we had a good time. It's long, but we had a good time.
Yeah.
So that's that. Do you have a fun fact? I know you were sorely lacking in your duties last time we recorded, and so I'm hoping that you have some fun facts for us, at least a couple, just to make up for what you didn't have last time we recorded. So
I did. I indeed doubled down on my fun facts. However, they are all about the movie that we are currently covering tonight. So it does relate. It does not. I have no fun facts for last week, but I do have fun facts for this week. So, two fun facts. Anytime there's any sort of stop motion, kind of claymation kind of movie, there is a tremendous amount of work that goes into it. I don't think that necessarily it might not be recognized unless it's brought to your attention, especially with today with all the CG and everything else. You might not necessarily be able to recognize or discern what's actually there and what actually somebody put hands on. But there were over 1,000 puppets used, and this is according to IndieWire. There were 1,000 puppets used in this film, 500 dogs and 500 humans. That's my first fun fact. My second fun fact is one of the takes in this movie. The one where they're making, there's a scene where somebody's making sushi. It took 6 months for them to shoot that, which is just, it's mind-boggling. Apparently they had they researched things and this, that, and the other, and it may have been pieced together over the period of 6 months, but it took 6 months for that sequence to come into fruition, which is just crazy.
Well, it's also worth noting, I think part of what makes that so astonishing is that the finished product of that particular scene lasts all of 45 seconds.
Absolutely. It's so, and you can tell when we're going to get into it, but you can just, God damn, there's so much work that gets put into this kind of movie. So for somebody to put the work in, especially now when you can just sit in front of a desk and kind of just, piece it together on a computer, for people to have this sort of artistic vision and implement it in the way that it gets implemented in the movie we're about to cover tonight, it's astonishing. So yeah, good things to talk about here in the coming minutes. But those are my fun facts, man.
All right. Well, I appreciate you coming prepared this time around.
Yeah.
All right, well, time for some news then. We're going to start again on a sad note, much like we did our last episode. Ermey has passed away at age 74 due to complications of pneumonia. Of course, he's probably most prominently known as the drill instructor from Stanley Kubrick's Full Metal Jacket. I think that's the kind of role that stands the test of time. And he was actually nominated for a Golden Globe for that, and well-deserved, I would say.
Yeah, it was definitely a good role. I mean, he nailed it. That was ridiculous. What a movie that was.
Yeah, definitely. That's hell of a movie and a hell of a performance as well. So certainly sad to hear about this. He was also in a couple other things. He was in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake, and he's also the police captain in Seven, which I rewatched recently and probably only a couple days before the news of his passing came out. So it was kind of an eerie coincidence, I guess. But not much else to add other than, it's as with anytime we kind of talk about anyone in Hollywood passing away, it sucks. So rest in peace, Gunny. I think that should cover it.
Yeah.
Moving into some movie news that we have for this week. We got a lot concerning the Terminator reboot / sequel / whatever the fuck it is, which is going to be directed by Tim Miller, the director of the first Deadpool. It's being produced by James Cameron, who directed Terminator 1 and T2. And we got some good news coming this way. Well, we'll start with I don't know if it's necessarily bad news, but it's news. It's been delayed to November of 2019. I think it was supposed to be summer 2019 and been pushed a few months. So that is what it is. It's honestly far enough away from me that doesn't hurt my feelings or make me feel, one way or another. So November 2019 seems like a good landing spot. So sure. I think the more exciting news is that we've got 3 pieces of casting. So I'll start I'll build up to what I find the most exciting, and probably you would find the most exciting. So Diego Boneta, who his listed credit here on the Deadline article is Scream Queens, has been cast in the movie. I don't know if it says exactly who he's going to be playing here, but I think he's going to be playing a human role of some sort. Okay. Additionally, Natalia Reyes is going to be joining the cast as, I think, the human lead in this. So I think we talked a while back about how they were trying to find a Latina actress to kind of take on the lead role in this, and apparently they've found who they wanted for the role. I'm not familiar with her. Trying to see what she has been in. She's been in Lady, La Vendedora de Rosas, and some other things that I've never heard of. So it seems like a pretty relative unknown as far as I can tell. But usually things kind of work out. If you take someone that's completely unknown, I think probably to the masses, there's a lot of people that go into the making of a movie, and when you have someone like James Cameron kind of around, they know what they're looking for. They're looking for something very specific. So I think that her getting selected out of probably a pretty wide pool of actresses, probably a pretty big deal. It's a pretty big deal, obviously, for her, but I think that she's probably got the chops. But what I'm most excited about, because I'm actually familiar with this actor, Gabriel Luna is joining the cast, and he'll be playing the Terminator. So if you don't recognize that name, I know you'll recognize him as Robbie Reyes / Ghost Rider from Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 4.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, so obviously that's a pretty big deal for him. Certainly graduating from TV, going to the big time this way. And I think it's good. I think that, honestly, there's certain mannerisms when I kind of think back of his Ghost Rider performance that I'm like, I could kind of see that as a Terminator.
Exactly. Yeah.
And he was really good in that role. So, I mean, it's not exactly a one-to-one comparison, but certainly I thought he did an excellent job with what he was given on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. As Ghost Rider, and I'm excited to see him kind of step up into this role. So, pretty big news for that one. Obviously, they're joining Mackenzie Davis, who we know was part of the cast, alongside Arnold Schwarzenegger, of course, and Linda Hamilton, who will be back as Sarah Connor. So, good news all around. I think this is shaping up to be the best Terminator project since Terminator: The Sarah Connor Chronicles, which itself was the best Terminator project since T2. So they try to wait like 10 years between good Terminator things is kind of what it seems like is happening here.
Yeah, well, I didn't see the best one I've seen is T2. I didn't see the Sarah Connor Chronicles, but I'll take your word for it. What else do we have in movie news?
We've got some news concerning the It sequel, It Chapter 2. Again, few pieces of casting actually to go with this. So first of which, I think we might have talked about it already. I'm not 100% on this, but Jessica Chastain has been confirmed to play the adult Beverly Marsh in the sequel, which that's good news.
Yes.
Very happy with that casting. Moreover, James McAvoy and Bill Hader are both in talks to star and join the cast. So McAvoy would play the adult Bill Denbrough, who is the leader of the Losers Club, and Bill Hader would play the adult Richie Tozier, who was played by Fenn Wolfhard. He was, the Stranger Things kid. He was the jokester of the group.
Okay, yeah, that's cool, man.
I think both obviously very talented actors, certainly, but I kind of think, back to the first movie, and then I look at these guys and I'm like, yeah, I could definitely see them all as adult versions, Chastain included. I think they all seem like pretty good fits as kind of adult versions of these characters. So
yeah, I'm all for it.
Good talent involved, and things are looking pretty good. At Chapter 2, coming out September 6th, 2019. Director Andy Muschietti is returning as director, and of course, Bill Skarsgård will be back as Pennywise the Dancing Clown.
See, that's cool, man. I like the one unified vision between the children, and the adults. I think that's cool. So, yeah. I don't know. I'm excited about it.
And it's also worth noting all the kids are supposed to be back as well for flashbacks for the second movie. So
that's really cool.
We'll certainly see some more continuity, I guess, between the two of them, which I think is a good idea instead of doing a full-on split down the middle. So cool. I think we're both looking forward to it. I don't know if we can say the same for the next piece of news we have on tap. Ocean's 8 has received a new trailer, and it's still got Awkwafina in it, and it's still got Rihanna in it, so it's got that going for it, doesn't it?
Awkwafina. Yeah, it's a movie, man.
Yeah. It looks fine.
I like Ocean, or I like the Ocean's movies. They were cool, and I like which one really comes to mind is the one with the Mini Coopers. What was that? The Italian Job. I like that one too. I like heist movies. So I'll go see it. I don't necessarily think it looks like it certainly doesn't look like the best heist movie ever, but I don't know. I'll go watch it. I'll movie pass it and let you know what I think.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it. I'm not overly enthused by it, but it doesn't. There's not enough in this trailer that I'm like, oh my god, this looks unwatchable. I think it looks completely average in every respect, and as such, I find it worthy of a movie pass. So
it's not Future World. Let's just say that.
Yeah. Which, as a side note for our listeners, if you ever stumble upon a trailer for Future World, turn the other way and run as fast as you can. Oh my god, I didn't even finish it. It was one of the worst things I've seen in a very long time.
I finished it.
I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. I can tell you what I could do, and I could finish the official trailer for Incredibles 2, because it's a damn good trailer for what appears to be a damn good movie. At least that's my opinion.
Yeah. Where you going ASAP? You better get you back here ASAP.
Yeah, it's a good close to the trailer. No, I mean, obviously the animation here, I think, is something that stands out of fucking hell. Like, Pixar just has this shit on lock, and it looks beautiful, but I think that it looks, again, kind of what we saw from the first teasers, that it's taking the story direction in interesting ways, and I think that's the way to do it, certainly for a sequel to something that came out basically, 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago now.
Right.
I'm really excited about this one. I think that, again, the direction of it, in terms of the story, in terms of the animation, everything looks top-notch for me, so I'm very, very excited to see this in June when it comes out. You got anything else to add to the Incredibles 2 trailer? Any other thoughts you'd like to add?
Yeah, man. Looks good. I'm excited about it. See what happens.
All right. Do you have any thoughts you'd like to say about a movie called Hotel Artemis?
I have one 2-word thought about it. And that 2-word thought is Jeff Goldblum. I was going to make it 3 words, but I decided not to.
Was the middle word going to be something naughty?
It was going to be something naughty. It started with an F. But I kept it PG for our younger audience.
Well, I'm not sure this movie is going to be PG. It certainly doesn't look very PG, does it?
No, it doesn't. But yes, Jeff Goldblum in a weird, it almost seems like a John Wick inspired universe.
It's like John Wick, like the Continental except it's a hospital, basically, is kind of the vibe I got from it.
Right. So, I think that looks fun and exciting and cool. So I'm all about it.
And it does have a good cast. I mean, Jeff Goldblum obviously counts for a lot, but even looking past the Jeff Goldblum, Jodie Foster, Sterling K. Brown. We recently saw him in Black Panther. Sophia Boutella, Jenny Slate, Zachary Quinto, Charlie Day, Dave Bautista getting a role in this.
Right.
Good. It's a good cast. No, it looks interesting. I don't know that it looks amazing or anything like that, but I think that it could be. I think it could be pretty good. I'm curious about it, definitely. It's written and directed by Drew Pearce, who wrote Iron Man 3 and Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. So,
okay,
I think that's a pretty solid resume. I think it's his directorial debut, so I think that's interesting.
Right on, man.
So, we'll see how it checks out when it comes out later this year in June 8th. I think that might be the same day as Oceans, actually. So,
well, I don't know. I think I know which one I'm going to pick.
Yeah, that's a tough one. All right, let's see. Some more movie news. DC, actually, we've got a couple bits of DC-related news we're going to touch on. So, first of which is DC has selected Cathy Yan to be the director of an upcoming film. It's going to be a group film that's going to be headlined by Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn. So I don't know exactly what it's going to work out to. I think that the last we heard about this project is that it was going to be a team-up kind of movie between Harley Quinn, Poison Ivy, and Catwoman. I don't know if this is the same thing or if this is something separate. Again, I don't really fully grasp what DC does behind the scenes, so I don't actually know that for a fact, and I don't think there's much more details other than Robbie's attachment to this. But it's kind of an interesting announcement, if nothing else. I think that, I mean, I'm not familiar with her work. I think she's kind of an up-and-coming director. I think that, I'm trying to think, okay, she did a movie called Dead Pigs that I think is kind of making its way through the festival circuit right now, so I don't know that it's had any sort of wide release on it yet. And I guess she did a presentation for Birds of Prey and kind of wowed DC. So, I mean, if she's got an idea, then fuck yeah. I mean, I'm all for it. So, I mean, I guess it is a Birds of Prey movie in a way, but Birds of Prey isn't really about Harley or any of those characters. I mean, Birds of Prey is Black Canary, Batgirl, and the Huntress. So I don't know if it's supposed to be that, or maybe it's about the villains and then the Birds of Prey are the bad guys or something. That's pure speculation on my part, but I feel like that could be pretty cool. So, I don't know.
We'll see what happens. Seems to be my response on a lot of this stuff. But yeah, I mean,
I think DC's current plan right now is just to throw shit at the wall and see what sticks. And I'm more excited about stuff like this than I am for like a Suicide Squad 2 or anything like that. So, I mean, I think if we're going to talk specifically about Suicide Squad, I think that Margot Robbie was well cast as Harley Quinn. I think Harley Quinn is a problematic character, but I think that she's good at what she does in there. She's a good actress in her own right, and I think that
she made that property a lot of money.
Yes, definitely. I think that there's potential here. I'm not going to say that I don't want this. I'm intrigued by it. I don't think I have enough information to kind of assess whether or not this is a good thing or not. But I think that honestly, having a bigger female presence behind the camera, I think, is always good. It's the first female Asian director to ever direct a superhero movie, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens with it for sure. The other DC movie news that I wanted to talk about is Steven Spielberg is stepping behind the camera to direct a DC movie as well. Now, he's going to be making a movie called Blackhawk, which is based off of the DC comic book of the same name. Tells the story of an international squadron of heroic pilots led by a man named, you guessed it, Blackhawk, who fought the Nazis and their ilk in World War II. So, period piece from the looks of it.
Okay.
And Steven Spielberg's involved. So, again, I think good things.
Yeah, that breeds a little bit of hope for the DC stuff, man.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, at this point, I'm assuming that I think DC is probably just content to just make movies. I think they've tried their hand at the whole cinematic universe thing. Kind of was a big resounding flop, and so now at this point, they're taking a step back and say, okay, let's reevaluate our priorities and let's just hire interesting, talented people to do interesting things. I mean, same thing. I know we gave him a lot of shit for hiring Ava DuVernay for New Gods, but it is certainly from a property standpoint, it's an interesting thing to make.
Yeah.
That's not an obvious, let's make another Superman movie, let's make another Batman movie. Shit. I mean, they still haven't made that fucking Batman movie. So, I don't know. I kind of, it does to me in some ways suggest that they still don't know what they're doing, but at least they're willing to open up the possibilities and just seek out new different things instead of just making the same shit over and over again. So at least from that standpoint, I guess that's something to write home about. If I had to find something to write home about,
Yeah, I hear you.
So, all right, we can move on to some TV news. We're going to start in HBO's Game of Thrones.
Ooh. What do we got from them?
Nothing too detail-oriented, but apparently they shot a battle sequence for this upcoming 8th and final season that took all of 55 nights to complete.
Lord have mercy.
A single battle sequence, 2 months, 3 locations.
Oh my God.
I think some shit's going down. What do you think?
Jesus. That isn't even, what kind of battle sequence requires 3 locations?
I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. I am greatly looking forward to what this ends up looking like. If you're shooting for 55 nights, that's at least an episode's worth of content. Given how I think a lot of these episodes, it's a 6-episode season, I get the impression that a lot of the episodes are going to be extended episodes. So I'm basically expecting 6 mini-movies, honestly. So
That's
I think
crazy.
that you could have a 90-minute, potentially 90-minute long episode that is a single battle sequence across 3 locations. Yeah, it's fucking madness, but HBO wants to wrap it up in a satisfying manner. If that means shooting for 55 nights in a row for a single battle sequence, then I, for one, am all for it.
That's crazy. Makes you wonder what we're going to get with that Amazon series. With all that money
Lord of the Rings?
Yes.
Yeah, when they're pumping that big money into it. I don't know. 55 nights, that's probably got to be a record if I had to guess. So, the onus is on Amazon to step up their game. Yeah, exactly. All right, more TV news. Marvel's Jessica Jones has been renewed for a 3rd season by Netflix.
All right.
So I think that's good news. We obviously had an episode very recently covering season 2. I won't elaborate too much on what we said. I think that if you're curious, obviously you should listen to that episode. But I think one of the things that I mentioned is that it felt a bit like a middle chapter.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think that the knowledge that a season 3 is coming helps reinforce that belief that I think that, if they take it in a satisfying direction, I think that season 2 will honestly look better in retrospect. So we'll see if that actually obviously holds true, but that's just kind of how I feel about it. And I'm glad we're getting season 3 because I think it has potential to be better, and I hope that it does get better. But I think that what I've seen, I've liked, and it's good, so I think it's worthy.
Yeah.
Star Trek Discovery, we got some news on that. Season 2 has begun production, and a couple things happening with that. Jonathan Frakes, who starred in The Next Generation, he's doing some episodes, he's directing some episodes for that, and we've got some new cast members, or at least we've got a new cast member specifically I wanted to talk about, and that's Anson Mount, who very recently starred in another television show by the name of Marvels and Humans.
Oh, goody.
Yeah. He was Black Bolt. He was Blackguard Boltagon.
The guy gets jobs? What?
That guy gets jobs. I mean, there was a lot of pretty overall talented people in that thing that just got brought down by the whole of it, So it's actually a pretty big role, at least in terms of the Star Trek canon. He's going to be playing Captain Pike, who is the original captain of the Enterprise, pre-Kirk era.
I take back what I said. I'm sorry. I mistaked. Shit. I thought you meant the other dude. What's the little douchebag's name? Black Bolt's brother.
Maximus the Mad?
Yeah, Maximus the Mad. That's the guy. I guess he was.
It's not like he had a big role in Game of Thrones or anything.
Yeah, he did have a big.
Was really good in.
Right, I guess you're right. He was what, Ramsay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I take back all comments on the cast on.
You're done. You're out of here. You're not allowed to comment anymore. It's a one-man show.
Oops.
Nah, it's all good. So I haven't watched Discovery Season 1. I've heard pretty good things about it, actually, overall. And it's one that I am curious to give a go now that all of Season 1's out. It's on the CVS app, so you have to subscribe, or I think there's like a trial period you can use. So that's kind of my intent, is that when I find some downtime and I'm feeling up to the task, I'll probably just use my free trial and binge it in that span of time before I have to actually pay for their services, because I've already subscribed to too many things at this point. I can't do it right now, especially when there's nothing that's immediately going to grab my interest like that. So that's my current plan. But I know we've talked about it certainly in the past on this show, so I figured it was worth mentioning. And I think Season 2, I'm not sure when we'll expect it to come back. I mean, it's probably, again, one of those things like American Gods, where just started production. I would say you probably expect it sometime next year would be my guess, unless there's a pretty quick turnaround with it. But we'll see. We'll definitely see. We'll probably keep track of it as we get some more information on it.
Yeah.
All right. We've got a couple more pieces of news before we can get into the movie. The first of which is the creators of Westworld, Lisa Joy and Jonathan Nolan, are going to be working on another television series called The Peripheral, which is going to be set to debut on Amazon's streaming service. So certainly working on Westworld is a pretty big deal. And I think that alone gets me excited. But if it doesn't, and if you want to know a little bit more about what this show is about, it revolves around Flynn Fisher, a woman in a near-future America in which technology has started to subtly alter society. Flynn discovers a hidden connection to a very different reality and the dark future of her own.
Ooh.
That doesn't really tell me anything, but sounds very sci-fi-y, which certainly is of interest to me.
Right.
Amazon spending some money.
That's it, man. And it's got Nolan on it. Jonathan Nolan is a pretty talented guy. See what he can do.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to hearing more about it. I think, maybe we'll get some casting and stuff that comes in that will maybe make us a little bit more excited too. We'll see. We'll keep an eye on it, certainly, as it kind of comes along. Last bit of news. I actually kind of alluded to this on our last episode when I talked about Colton Haynes coming back to Arrow for its next season, its 7th season. There's been some creative shakeup across the CW universe in general, but I think Arrow is probably the one that's most significantly affected. So currently the showrunners on Arrow are Mark Guggenheim and Wendy Miracle. And both are stepping down from their roles and will no longer be showrunners on Arrow. Instead, Arrow will be showran by current co-executive producer Beth Schwartz. So definitely a pretty big shakeup there. Additionally, Legends Tomorrow, which has been currently co-show run by Phil Klemmer and Mark Guggenheim, there's some changes there. So Phil Klemmer will be the sole showrunner on that. Again, Guggenheim stepping down. He's going to be an executive consultant for both Arrow and Legends going forward. So I looked at the Arrow subreddit because those fuckers hate the shit out of Mark Guggenheim and Wendy Miracle, and they're having a party in there. So I think they're taking in the news pretty well. I'm of the opinion, personally, that it could be good or it could be bad. I really don't know. I think Arrow's kind of run its course. Personally, I like the character, but I think that they've clearly ran out of ideas, and maybe this is a way to kind of revitalize that. We'll see, obviously, but CW is a big fan of not canceling shows. Supernatural, I believe, is in its 37th season at the moment. So
that's sarcasm, right?
It is, but it's
okay.
It's probably pretty close to 20 by this point.
I was gonna say, fuck, that's gotta be close to The Simpsons, man. When they start doing the Supernatural.
I actually don't know, but I'm pretty sure it's in the mid-teens at a bare minimum. I know that for a fact. So
You said it so deadpan. I didn't know if you were being legit or not. It's like, fuck, they've been shooting that shit for a long time, man.
Yeah. But that is it for the news this week. I think we can start talking about some good boys. We can talk about the good boys in Isle of Dogs.
Yeah, little doggies.
So Isle of Dogs is written and directed by Wes Anderson. Stars Bryan Cranston, Koyu Rankin, Edward Norton, Bob Balaban. We're going to be going for a while here, so just stay tuned. Bill Murray, Jeff fucking Goldblum,
Yes.
Kunichi Nomura, Akira Takayama, Greta Gerwig, Frances McDormand, Akira Ito, Scarlett Johansson, Harvey Keitel, F. Murray Abraham, Yoko Ono. Yoko Ono's in this. Tilda Swinton, Ken Watanabe, Fisher Stevens, Liev Schreiber, and Courtney B. Vance. And fucking hell, man, there's more, but I think that does the trick personally.
Sums it up.
And takes place in a dystopian near-future Japan where a young boy goes in search of his dog after the whole species is banished to an island due to an illness outbreak.
Yeah.
So, Isle of Dogs. What'd you think?
I think this is another movie, man, where just the opening sequence sets up the whole thing. It sets up the humor, it sets up the score, sets up the cinematography and the tone of the story. And it's you immediately know what you're getting within the first 5 minutes, I think. And I think that's exciting, man. When you have such stylistic openings and it just has so much character and so much dedicated vision. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it shines through the film. You can see the amount of passion that went into everything within the first 5 minutes. You know what you're getting. And that's that opening sequence there. Just the people playing the drums and the story, the background of what's going on and stuff. It's really fucking cool. I really like it. Noteworthy things for this movie, I think. Initially you're set up with the score, and the dialogue and just the humorous quips in the beginning with the what is the word I'm looking for? With the subtitles, for the God damn it, what am I thinking of? The subtitles for the Japanese text. And I thought that was funny. But the score is outstanding. Aside from that, you're going to watch a handcrafted animated film, and the amount of effort and the level of detail and level of attention that was put into the puppets, and the amount of emotion that they can convey in a hand sculpted object through stop motion is absolutely stunning. It's ridiculous. The humor was awesome. It was a very humorous movie, while still being able to be emotional at the same time. I thought it was predictable, but at the same time, it doesn't make it a bad movie. And I don't know. It's just it was a really heartwarming story, man. It was really fucking good. What'd you think?
I think you covered it all quite nicely. I think we can call it a day here. All right, have a good night, folks.
Boom. Good deal.
No. You did cover things quite nicely. And I will just kind of add on to what you've already talked about. So I think probably the first thing, obviously with a movie like this, is you really have to talk about the animation involved and the effort that goes into something like this, and the artisanship behind the whole of it is just unparalleled. It's just crazy to think about how much work goes into making basically a sub 2 hour movie. And the ability to kind of have it pack that punch that you're talking about, that emotional resonance for a lot of it. I mean, yeah, it's 100 or it's 1,000 puppets, right? Isn't that what you said? 500 dogs, 500 humans, and it's a movie about dogs, talking dogs for a lot of it, and those are the characters I think that drive the emotionality for the most part of the movie. And I think that obviously, I guess certainly as Americans, we have a lot of attachment to dogs as companions, as pets and stuff like that. But it's one thing to kind of convey that in a regular movie. It's another thing to kind of convey that through puppets and through this style, through the humor and everything of it. And it does it all just so well. So I have an immense amount of respect for all the kind of crew that worked behind the scenes to make that stop motion animation just so amazing. And it's not the first of its kind that I think that has worked super successful. I think Kubo and the Two Strings is another one that comes to mind of kind of recent movies, and I'm like, fucking hell, this is such a gorgeous movie. And, it's gorgeous, and there's so much work that went into it, and I think between that movie and this movie, they have the same commonality of the cinematography as they're filming these puppets on these elaborate sets is just so jaw-dropping.
Yes, it's awesome.
It's amazing because, all of it is practical. It's literally practical. They're actual physical kind of,
they're sets,
constructions
man.
that they've made. Yeah, and the way that they can kind of have this very deliberate camera movement and the way that it kind of tracks a lot of these characters and stuff. Like, I mean, I know if I was making a stop motion movie, I would have the camera fixed in exactly one point, and I wouldn't want to move it around, because it would be such a ridiculous pain in the ass to do it otherwise. But they don't do that. They have interesting camera angles and they have interesting camera movements and everything, and it's just like, holy hell! Like, so much time and thought went into this whole thing of it, and it's pretty mind-bending to think about.
It's interesting to think about, too, that this isn't Wes Anderson's first directorial debut with, claymated animated movie. He did Fantastic Mr. Fox. But those foxes, and I read this and I've seen Fantastic Mr. Fox. I didn't think about it until I read it, but to be fair. But the interesting thing is that those foxes, they acted like humans. Their gaits, their walks, the way they moved and communicated and everything. They were essentially they were essentially humans. But these dogs, they acted and they were animated to portray dogs, which in and of itself is huge, because now you have a different emotional, for lack of a better term, vocabulary to try to convey on your film, right? They got to snarl, they got to bark, they got to, aside from talking, the way they walk, the way they run, all of that stuff has to be carried over from actual dogs. And to call back to that thing I was talking about in the very beginning there with the sushi scene, just the level of detail that was poured into this movie is just ridiculous. It's absurd. To put it in perspective, they started filming, production began in October 16. So that's how long it's taken them for it to come out. And I think it was released here in the States, March 23rd.
Yeah, it had a big limited release and it just expanded wide. This past weekend, before we're recording this.
Yeah, so it's just it's a huge endeavor. And you can just tell that everybody had a unified vision for what they were doing. It wasn't pulled in any other direction other than the direction it was intended to go, which is really cool. And it shows. It's a really well made movie, man.
Yeah, it is, and it's one that I think is led by obviously it's a very talented voice cast, and there's a lot of characters in this. And I think that I'd say overall probably Bryan Cranston probably gets the most heavy lifting to do, I would say, with kind of the voice acting. There's a lot of, like Edward Norton, I think, is great. Jeff fucking Goldblum is great. But there's a lot of, bit kind of roles in this. And there's a lot of big names kind of that fill those big name roles. And I think they're all good and great at kind of what they do. But I think that certainly it's good throughout. But Bryan Cranston in particular, I thought was really great in this. And it's a really impressive cast that lands some really impressive work. I think that's kind of the advantage of having that sort of clout that Wes Anderson has now, is that you can call up some crazy talented people in Hollywood and say, "Hey, I need you for 3 lines of dialogue in this movie. Can you do it?" You know. So it's awesome to kind of see that. And I was really impressed by that. And of course the score. I mean, the score in this is just ridiculously good. And I was admiring it the whole way through the movie. And I was trying to think, who did the score for this? And I was trying to think the whole way through, because it was, every time it would come up, I would, especially the drums. I think you talked about the drums.
Yeah.
All of it is just so beautiful, and it adds to the scenes so well. And I was just like, there's got to be someone really talented doing this. And I waited until the end credits, and I find out that it's Alexandre Desplat who did it, who of course did The Shape of Water last year. So
that explains it.
That explains a lot. Yes, I agree. So definitely hats off to him for another beautiful score, and an early contender for my favorite of the year, I would say. I'm gonna have to see if it's on Spotify and give it a few spins.
I can confirm
really, really
that it is.
All right, perfect. Perfect. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it. Wes Anderson, is a very talented director, has a very unique style to it. A lot of deadpan humor, a lot of interesting, again, camera angles and shots and stuff that I think that he uses. I mean, even outside of his stop motion animation movies, like this one, and the Fantastic Mr. Fox, which, as a side note, is also a really, really amazing movie.
Yes.
He's a talented guy. I think that, I don't know if his style necessarily works for everyone, but it definitely works for me. I can say that for a certain fact. Grand Budapest Hotel is probably another recent example. If that rings any bells, if that's something you liked, I think that if you liked kind of the style and the humor of that one, I think that you would like the style and humor in this one because it's very characteristic of his work.
I never saw that Grand Budapest Hotel.
You should definitely check that out as a side note, for another side note. No, I mean, I think that it's a really well told story. It's very kind of emotionally resonant. Like I said, we obviously have our attachments to dogs and our own kind of personal stories that kind of come with that. So, when I see a pug pop up, I'm like, aw. As a little puppet pug, I'm like, I want one.
Right.
But no, it's good. It's a good movie, and I'm happy that I saw it.
And there's modern day parallels in this movie too. I mean, if you really want to dig in deep to like the material, I think on a second viewing or something like that, you could probably pull away, like I said, modern parallels or historical parallels of that sort of nature. And I think you could probably scrape away more from the story the more you dig in deep to it. And it's wrapped up in what can be considered, what is this? Is it PG-13?
I assume so, yeah.
Okay, I mean, if it's PG-13, there's a PG-13 movie you can scrape away a lot of material from, I think. It's really good, and it's really twisted, too. It's a real fucked up world that he set up here in this movie. So it's, like I said, well, if we're going to hop, I can jump into the recommendations if you would like.
Yeah, absolutely. Take it away.
I would say I recommend you watch this movie in theaters. With the caveat, it's certainly not for everybody. It's an animated movie, and it's got a different kind of sense of humor. But I think to be completely honest with you, I'd be content sitting in a movie theater, hour and a half with the speakers turned up, listening to the score. So I could do that. So I think, for the score alone, I think it's worth going to listen to because it's an excellent score. But furthermore from that, I would say that it's a really well-crafted movie with an excellent story, a touching story, and I think that there's probably something there for everybody. I think it's really good.
I agree. I think it's worth checking out in theaters. Absolutely. It's one that I think I talked about how it had a limited release, and I have been waiting for this to come out near me for a few weeks now, and it's finally kind of hit its wide release, and I was very happy to see that we had an alternative option to Rampage. So I think from that standpoint, it's definitely worth your time. And, it's everything you said. It's a strong movie with very emotionally resonant story, with a talented voice cast, with a lovely score, and the really kind of compelling direction by Wes Anderson. So again, if you have any sort of familiarity with his previous work, that would probably kind of dictate how you might respond to something like this. But if you don't have any sort of previous ties, then I'd say give it a whirl. And if you don't like it, oh well, opinions are fine, even if they're wrong. You ready to do some spoilers then?
Yeah, we'll get into it.
All right, full spoilers for Isle of Dogs. I don't actually have too much to add here, honestly, but I did want to talk about the moment where the cart that they're on kind of splits in half. And the group of dogs, the Edward Norton, Jeff Goldblum group of dogs, they head towards this crushing, incinerating factory or whatever it is, and they basically cut away from them for at least a good 5 minutes or so, and I'm like,
shit.
Oh my god, are they actually just dead? Because I was like, this is the kind of movie, again, that I'm like, I wouldn't put it past Wes Anderson to pull something like that off and just immediately drop those characters and
just write them off.
The rest of the movie is just the Bryan Cranston and the kid Atari. I would have been like, fucking hell, I respect that decision but I'm very sad right now. Didn't turn out that way, fortunately. You know,
and when they did come back, they're all black.
Yeah, they're all fucked up. Well, it's hilarious because, you know, when they come out, they're all sorts of fucked up, and then, you know, Bryan Cranston's dog, I forget which one he is. Chief. Yes, Chief. You know, he comes out, he's had his bath, you know, he's like white with spots instead of just black and, you know, all mangled looking. It was a good, funny kind of parallel between the two.
He's got soap.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the humor in this is just so good. You know, I heard a rumor that the humor was pretty good. I don't know where I heard it from, but it's good. It's good across the board.
I heard a rumor.
Yeah.
That was Bill Murray's dog, right?
I thought that was the Goldblum dog. Wasn't that the Goldblum dog?
Was that the Goldblum dog? Maybe you're right. Maybe I'm wrong.
Pretty sure the Goldblum dog was the one here in the rumors. I have seen it more recently than you, so I could be wrong still, but that's
pug.
How I heard it.
The little pug.
Did you know that the pug was voiced by Tilda Swinton? I didn't know that till I kind of looked after the movie. Yeah, well, she has like 2 lines in it, but it's pretty funny. She can tell the future. Oh, no, she can understand television.
Right.
Or whatever it was. It's good. No, it's a funny movie. I think it's the style of humor that certainly wouldn't work for everyone, but I think it's definitely within our wheelhouse. So I think that it's not any surprise that... I feel like I was laughing more than the people in the theater I was with were. I don't know if that was your case, you know, if that was the case for you or not, but...
I went and saw this with somebody who did not enjoy it at all.
Yep.
But I laughed. I maintained laughs throughout the movie. I thought it was great.
Yeah. I actually did want to talk about probably the biggest complaint I had overall is that once they kind of shifted the focus to Chief kind of being the companion for Atari, it kind of seemed like the other dogs just kind of didn't really do much after that. Was I the only one that kind of felt that way?
You know, I think at that point, maybe they were just trying to wrap it up, or maybe at that point the shift changed from, because at that point he found his companion. You know what I mean? The whole movie's centered around him trying to find this one dog, and these other dogs are just trying to help. But once he finds his companion, maybe their focus on that interaction shifted from the dogs wanting to be man's best friend to him actually finding his best friend. Now he's got his best friend. Now he's going to focus on his one dog. But I don't, you know, and like I said, I think that's where it might tie back. I'd like to think that they didn't just write the other dogs out. Well,
there was some resolution. I think like the baseball one, I think we saw him kind of reunited with the baseball team. And I think the one that did like the commercials, we saw a little bit, but it just seemed like, you know, once they got separated, they were kind of stuck in that. And I guess they fell out the bottom of it, but it seemed like after that, they didn't really have any sort of meaningful role. I mean, I figured they'd at least take a vote about something, you know?
Right. Yeah. I'd like to think that there's more there. Like watching it a second time might pull some sort of parallel back. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a movie that, well, I mean, first of all, I think this might be the first time in podcast history, I could be wrong on that, but I think it might be the first time that I'm recording on something that I pretty much watched several hours before we actually started recording. I know you've done that a couple times, but for me, I usually like to process a movie for at least a day or two, you know, before we kind of get into things. So there is probably a lot of stuff that certainly a second viewing would help out, but even if I just kind of sat on it for a little while and thought about it, there might be some more things that had kind of sprung to mind. But
especially because it seems to have such a political atmosphere to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you know. So I don't know.
Yeah,
but
yeah, I mean, you kind of mentioned it a little bit, but I was kind of surprised by just kind of how crazy the world in general was. I mean, obviously, kind of the political state of things is a big one. You know, everyone, you know, the Japanese kind of people kind of turning against dogs and banishing to this island. I was just like, well, that's pretty fucking harsh. But there was a lot of just kind of crazy things that happened in it. You know, they were replacing them with robot dogs. Just little things in this, and I'm just like, what? I like how weird this is. Like, it's so off kilter that I can't help but just be enamored by the kind of whole universe of it. Obviously I'm enamored by the style of it, and I guess that's something I haven't really talked about too much, but the whole the aesthetic to like the subtitles and everything about it with the
I tell you what I liked. I liked the aesthetic of when they take so they'll have him in normal claymation puppet like Atari, for example, and then when they pan out and they'll look at him on a screen, on a security screen. Mm-hmm. And how he's kind of animated within that computer screen. You know what I'm saying? It looks like hand-drawn or something. I don't know what it was.
It's like a 2D animation.
Yeah, it's fucking cool, man. There's a lot of cool stuff in this movie. I like it a lot.
I think it's definitely something that I think it would definitely reward a second viewing. I don't know if we'll get a chance to see it again in theaters, but it will definitely be a Blu-ray purchase in my future, and I think probably for you as well.
Absolutely.
Last thing I wanted to touch on with this is there was a little bit of controversy with this in terms of kind of white savior tropes and kind of whether it's kind of appropriating Japanese culture and stuff like that. And I fully realized that neither of us are exactly qualified to speak on the matter, but I was curious to see if you got any sort of with
the white foreign exchange student, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, certainly that. And then just kind of the general, definitely that, but certainly kind of the idea of the Japanese people kind of turning against the dogs, and then you have this white character, the exchange student, that comes in and says that, hey, everything you guys are doing is wrong. I can help save you. And I see that. I do see it. And I honestly think that a lot of that is probably just they kind of wanted a character that spoke English to kind of have a little bit more of a narrative presence towards the end. But you could have
because for the entirety of the movie, the only person that spoke English was the narrator.
Yeah, and obviously some of it's interpreted as well throughout the movie. But I mean, there's really no reason you couldn't have had just a Japanese person that speaks English kind of fill that role.
At the same time, though, I mean, I'm not gonna defend it because I never, to be honest with you, I never kind of thought about it. But at the same time, though, Atari kind of like led the
I say it wasn't that. Yeah, I think there was a combination of things that obviously happened at the end that kind of led to the mayor kind of renouncing the edict or whatever he had done. I think there's a lot that went into it beyond that. I think a lot of the kind of the controversy is that, Wes Anderson's a white dude, and a lot of people were kind of just like, okay, why is this movie so, like hinged on, I guess, Japanese culture and stuff like that. To me, it just kind of felt like a love letter to it. But again, I speak that, I say that as someone that isn't exactly qualified to talk on it. But I just thought that it made for a really strong aesthetic. I didn't really get a whole lot of that out of it. I kind of can, I think it's another thing I can see where people are coming from with it, but it didn't hold back my enjoyment of it. And I was just throwing it out there to see if there was anything that kind of, if anything like that fit the bill for you.
I don't know. You get into kind of that. I don't know. It's a hard conversation to have because, like you say, we're not really qualified to have that discussion, I feel like. But at the same time, I mean, it seemed like like you said, it seemed like a love letter to it. I mean, I wouldn't say it disrespect. I mean, but then again, it's not my culture, so can't say that it disrespected the culture because I don't know. You know what I mean? But
right.
I don't know. It just seems like he's got a lot of admiration for Japanese culture. That's what I would take away from it. But then, like I said, I'm not an expert, so I don't know. I couldn't see the only, the white. I could get the white girl, trying to, calling bullshit on everything that's going on. But at the same time, you do have the Japanese boy trying to do the same thing. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I'm going to say I need to watch it a second time to try to pull out anything like that because I was just taken back by everything else. So I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a good way to go about it. All right. I don't really have much else to say myself. What about you?
No, I think that's about it, man.
Yeah.
Good movie. Good. Go see it.
Yeah, exactly. Go see it. All right, I know it hasn't been much time since we recorded last, but I will ask anyway. Have you been up to anything lately you want to talk about?
I went to work.
Ooh. Anything exciting happening on that front?
I had dinner at Sonny's.
Ooh, a little barbecue action.
Yeah, some corn nuggets. And then I came back here and recorded. I also started the dishwasher. So there is that.
All right. Well, do you have any plans to watch anything until we record next time? How's that? Maybe some things on your docket?
Yeah, so I got some things on my docket. I've got Grave of the Fireflies.
Okay.
I think I'm going to go on a Wes Anderson binge and try to catch Moonrise Kingdom?
Moonrise Kingdom. Definitely put Grand Budapest on your list as well if it's not already there.
And Grand Budapest. I think those two will be relatively easy to catch. And I intend to finish Lost in Space.
Well, that's probably a good idea. We'll talk about it in a little while, why that might be a good idea. All right, well, that sounds like a pretty good list of things to cover. I actually have been doing some stuff since we recorded last, and we haven't talked about it in a little while, but I'm caught up on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. How about you?
I think so. I think I am.
Okay.
Well, I can't remember the last time I watched it, but then again, every day kind of fades together.
Yeah. Since I've talked about it last, there was 3 episodes. So the first of which was the Hydra Academy kind of flashback episode.
Okay.
That was a few weeks back. And then the week prior to this last episode that's aired, basically Coulson escaped from the Hydra compound with Creel and Talbot.
Okay.
So have you seen one since that, or does that sound like the last thing you watched?
Go ahead and talk about the third episode.
Third one, Yo-Yo and Simmons break out fits. Then they go on a mission to England to find this kind of device this capsule.
I don't think I saw that episode.
Okay, I'll stop there. So I think you're one behind then, but it's pretty good. So put that on your list too. Yeah.
Okay.
Probably be a couple episodes actually. By the time we record next, there'll probably be a couple to catch up on. So, no, it continues to be good. I liked the spacey setting more than I like the current setting of it, but
I'd agree with that.
It's still good. It's still
not
good.
that this,
I'm curious
not
where
that
it's
this
going.
is bad. It was different enough to add a different kind of. I don't know. It's just different kind of flair to the show.
Yeah, no, I agree. And then the only other thing I wanted to add for what I've been doing, it's kind of an addendum to what I talked about last episode with the CW Power Rankings. So most of the shows went out on break after week 9, but I guess Riverdale actually had another week before it went to break, so I watched that. And it kind of wrapped up some of the major plot threads of the first half of second season of that, and it continues to be totally fine. So I wanted to put that on the record so that I can have a clean slate as I move forward into week 10 of the Power Rankings. Now I'm totally caught up through the end of 2017, and when we come back next and talk about things next, it will be from the beginning of 2018 moving forward. So
would you say that Riverdale is very yes? Or it's just totally fine?
It depends on what you're in for. If you're in for attractive people being very attractive, then yes, it is extremely yes. If you're in for it as like a legitimately good, compelling show, I would say it's totally fine. I enjoy it, but
I think we need to change. I think we need to change our recommendation scale.
Okay.
Like this would be a very yes movie, the one we just watched.
Okay, all right.
And something like Rampage would probably be it's probably not fine. I don't know what you would say Rampage is, but what's a just fine movie?
I'm sure we've seen something recently that was total. I thought Tomb Raider was totally fine.
Totally fine. It's totally fine.
Yeah, so maybe what's the shit house? Is that maybe where we get to?
It's total shit house. Yeah, that'd be a good one. Rampage is
got.
Yeah, well, I don't.
Oh, I haven't seen Rampage, so
yeah.
I can't speak on its quality. But so we got shit house, totally fine, and very yes.
Very yes. That's
or
good.
Do we want a yes and a very yes? Do we want an in between?
Yeah, we could do an in between. That's good. 4 rankings. That's good. So, like, you would say that Inhumans is shit house.
Yeah, I honestly, that might even be below that. I don't know what's below that, but whatever it is, that's where Inhumans is.
Right. I think we should keep our rating system. Yeah.
But we can. It was fun as an exercise, and
Exploration.
Yeah, exactly. All right, I think that's it then for this episode of Watch, Review, Repeat. Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode here. If you enjoyed what you heard, spread the word to your friends on the social medias, your Twitters, your Facebooks, your Instagrams, your whatever the one Google has that no one uses anymore. Do that one too.
That's Google Plus, bro.
Oh yeah, that's the I use it so much I totally remembered exactly what it was.
I don't use Twitter, but I'm an avid Google Pluser.
Okay.
Not really. Don't look for me. I don't know if I have one or not.
As I mentioned at the top of the episode, you can support us on Patreon, and you'll get immediate access to our Phase 3 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe bonus episode, and I would recommend you do so, because then you can have Phase 1, Phase 2, Phase 3 all listened to by the time Infinity War comes out, so please do that. Just head over to our website, which is watchreviewrepeat.com. You can go to the premium tab for more information on that, or go directly to our Patreon, which again is patreon.com/watchreviewrepeat. You can find the links to our socials on our website. So we're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we're not on Google Plus. I keep wanting to call it Google Play, which I think is the music player, right? Does that sound right? Google Play?
Yes.
Or maybe that's what their store is.
I think it's the Google Play Store is what it is.
Okay. I'm actually.
I think Google Music
family,
is Google Music.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess that checks out. If you have any questions, comments, and suggestions, I know this one. You can send it to our watchreviewrepeat@gmail.com Gmail account. I knew that it was called Gmail, for the record. And our intro and outro track is Mechanolith by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.com, and it is licensed under the Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0 license. So, next episode, there's a reason you've been watching Lost in Space, and that's because it is the topic for our next episode, the Netflix series Lost in Space. 10 episodes, I believe. I still haven't watched a single episode of it, but I think it could be an interesting show. I don't know. I'm going to find out very shortly, and we're going to talk about it next episode. It definitely looks like they put a lot of money into it. So I think from that standpoint, it should at least be visually appealing. So my hope is that it does a little bit more than just that. But tune in next episode and find out. All right. That will be it for me, Andrew.
Later. How's it go?
Latest on the Menjay.
That's it.
You're going to get it right one of these days, I promise, without any hate. You can do it.
All right, everybody. Talk to you later.